Oh.
Nice to know.
Oh, today is one of those days on the computer that I wish.
Sorry, that was me.
Anyway, let's get started here. So we're talking about low-level students. If you have a question or a comment or anything, please just interrupt me. You can raise your hand or say hello or something so that the speaker view can come on and I can see who's talking. If you say something and I don't respond to you, it's because I didn't know who said it or I didn't hear you. So be loud. We are going to talk about low-level students. Low-level students are not pre-literate students. We're not talking about people who are learning to write their names, learning the alphabet, or that level student. That's not the student we're talking about. We're talking about a student that's a little bit higher than that. So a student that has some literacy skills, some English skills, but not a lot, okay? So if you, in your head, can think of a student like that, when we talk about all these examples and things that you can do with somebody, think about that one or two students that kind of fits that bill, okay? I just want to preface with saying that, as you know, those of you who sub or have gone to different teachers, we all do things a little differently, but we all have the same goal. Everybody wants these students to achieve their goals, which is something that we talk about with students before they're enrolled in the class and continuously throughout the class as well. We talk to them about what is your goal, what do you want to do. Learning English is a major goal, but as you know, when you're learning another language, your whole life, you can be learning that language. It just doesn't start and stop. But if you have a goal that's attainable, then we, the teachers, try and help you attain that goal. And I just want to ask you, because I want you to be active participants. I am going to be lecturing because of the nature of this venue that we're doing here. But do any of you happen to know a student's goal at all that you've worked with or not? I know GED students is different. Their goal is to pass the GED. That's, pretty much goes unsaid. But is anyone aware of any goal that any of the student that you work with has?
Being able to converse with their child's teacher.
Talk with their child's teacher. If you're in family literacy, a lot of our students in family literacy, that's a goal they have. Yeah. Yeah. Any other person know any other goal? Has heard a student or its teacher talk about a goal? No? Okay, well, let's go with that one. Let's go with talking to the child's teacher. So think about how maybe some of these things that we're going to talk about might fit into that, okay? So I'm going to share with you the stuff that I think, and I kind of know because of my background, are good practices to use with low-level students. Actually, with all students, but we're going to talk about low-level students today. So when the teacher hands you a handout, like I sent you that handout, that is not your main goal is not just to complete that handout. Your main goal should be, as a tutor, is to use that handout or that book or whatever you have in front of you that the teacher gives you to have the student communicate effectively with you and with the paper in front of them. So communication is what it's all about. It's not about filling in the blanks and giving it back to the teacher all completed if you haven't spoken more than 5 words with the student. That's not the goal. The goal is to speak because, as the unknown host, Steve, said, 100% of our students, it doesn't matter if they are high level or low level, I could probably say 90%, I'm not going to go 100, 90% of our students, when we talk to them, what do you want to do with English? They say, I want to be able to speak and understand. And then the list is not always as uniform. They could say teacher, doctor, my neighbors, work, but it's always speak and understand. So listening and speaking, and then they say who they want to have that skill with. So one of the things that I'm going to show you or I'm going to share with you right now is how you can take that piece of paper or book in front of you and work with this low-level student, interacting, speaking, giving them skills that are not necessarily just filling in the blanks. Okay, so with that said, let's look at page number 5. And page number 5 looks like this. Does everyone have that page? So page number 5 and page number 6 comes from a book called Survival English. It happens to be one of my favorite books to use. If you've worked with low literacy people at Learning Lab, you probably have worked with Survival English before. I really like Survival English because it's a true beginning book, meaning that they're not writing in all these weird directions and expecting someone who's low level to be able to understand those directions. This book really has no directions. It's very intuitive what you're supposed to do. So here we are with page number 5. So before the student even picks up a pencil, there are so many things you can do with this page. The first thing that I would do is I would go over the numbers with the student. Even a student who is low level probably has an idea of the numbers. So this is a way to start working with a student and giving them an opportunity to right off the bat be very successful. They probably know the numbers. So I would say, so let's look at number 1. Do you see number 1? Yes. Show me where number 1 is. They show you. Do you see a woman or a man there? A woman. Okay, good. What about number 2? What do you see on number 2? And I would be going like this, showing them, because they may be looking here, not even looking at the number, thinking that the numbers go this way and this way. But on this page, they go this way and this way. So you're giving them a skill that a student, somebody who is a student who has been a student in this country kind of knows. But someone from another country may not know that. They may not know that sometimes they go like this, sometimes they go like that. Okay? So you're giving them some interaction with the page that is very successful to jumpstart your lesson. Okay? Any questions about that? So this is all pre-reading. As one of the tutors in my last training when I was doing this said, it's like a soft beginning, and I love that. Or a gentle beginning, she said.
A gentle beginning. Nice. Yeah.
Fantastic. A gentle beginning to getting into this thing. So you're on page 5. This lesson happens to be the pronouns I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. They've already done 4 pages of that. Okay? And now we're introducing some other words. But the main goal of this lesson is the pronouns. The number one mistake that we all make when we're working with beginners is talking too much about things that are not on the page that they're supposed to be doing. If you start saying, well, you know, maybe she works in an office. No, maybe she works at a bank, number 1. Or she could be out of school. They're listening, but they're not comprehending a lot of what you're saying.
You stopped.
You froze.
Rose. Oh, Leela, can you hear us? Oh, no. We'll just wait a minute here.
Oh dear. Can you hear that dog?
Yeah.
How is that?
Is that yours?
No. It is well be. It's my neighbor's dog. My computer's in this office and their backyard's right there, so I can't do anything about it. Sorry.
That's okay. Here she comes.
I'm back. Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, it's, it's the
Yeah, never mind.
witching, whoever, today my computer is bewitched. Something is going on. Okay, so what I asked you was, I can't even remember now. Any comments about what I just said with the numbers?
No.
No, okay, cool. So, you're giving them some success. That's why you're starting with the numbers, right? Now you're going to do some pre-reading and writing. Again, some of your eager beaver students might be, itching at the bit to hold on to that pencil and start writing. No, put that pencil down. Let's talk a little bit more about what we're looking at. Again, a springboard for conversation. So you can ask leading and probing questions. You can say, so number one, remember number one? Well, let's go to number 6. Number 6. So is that a man or a woman? That's a man. So if it's a man, would it be he or would it be she? What do you think? I don't know. Well, let's look at page 3. See the man? It says he. So it probably would be a he. So this would be a he. So you're reviewing a little bit of the pronouns that they saw on page 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So you ask a couple of other leading questions like, when it's more than one people, what number here has more than one people in it? Oh, number 2. Yeah, number 2 does, and number 7 also. Number 7. So what do you think if we said these are children? Let's say these are children. If we don't want to say the children, but we want to use that other word that you're learning, and you could say it's called a pronoun, but do not stay on why it's called a pronoun, but you can just say that and let it go. What pronoun could you use? So Brenda, if it's the children, what pronoun, what other word, a smaller word, can you use if you don't want to say the children? You could also say
They.
they, because they is for more than one. Okay, good. And if this woman's name is Gail, and you don't want to say Gail, you want to take that name Gail and make it smaller and use that special word that's called a pronoun. What would you say? Connie, what would you say?
Say she.
It would say she, right. So you don't have to do all of them, but you can do maybe 4 of them, okay? And then we go, okay, now take out your notebooks. Or if they don't have a notebook, you hopefully, oh, I didn't talk about this before. You have a piece of paper in front of you or a whiteboard. The whiteboards are fantastic. They're in every single classroom. Get one if you don't. Every time.
Oh, no.
Oh, there we go again.
It's so strange. It's like the internet in the North End. I don't know if anyone else lives in the North End, but Leela always has problems.
Am I not? Can you not hear me?
You were
Yeah,
paused
yeah,
again.
Now we can.
Oh, now you're back.
Okay, now I'm back. It is maybe the North End curse. I don't know. Your internet connection is unstable, it tells me right now.
Well, that's
Okay.
what happened.
That's not good. Okay, so now what you're going to do is they're going to write just the pronouns. So you're going to say to them, okay, I'm going to dictate to you. You're giving them an academic word, dictate. And you're going to say, dictate means I'm going to say it. You are going to write it. So I'm going to dictate to you 5 words. And the words are all pronouns. So here we go. Are you ready? Make sure you say, are you ready? Yes, teacher. Okay. Right. Number 1. They write number 1. Number 1. He. I just paused for 10 seconds. You guys were probably thinking, okay, where's the next one? Where's the next one? They are not going to be doing that. They're going to be translating. They're going to be getting those words, maybe looking here. Give them at least 7 seconds. 10 is better. You count in your head, and then you go to the next one. Okay? Before you go to the next one though, always with your whiteboard, you're gonna write one, he. Did you write this? He? Oh yeah, you did. Great, that's fantastic. Let's go to number 2. Are you ready? Yes. Write they. They. Did you write this? T-H-E-Y, they. Oh, look, you wrote an A instead of an E. Let's change that. Let's make it an E because they is with an E. So have them change it. Mexican students, I know I'm making a stereotype, but I have very few Mexican students who, if I tell them that, they'll just erase the E. No, they erase the whole thing and write it again. I don't know if any of you have had experience with a student like that. You can say, oh no, it starts with a D, not a T, and they erase the whole thing. And I hear a lot of tutors say, no, you don't need to erase the whole thing. Guess what? They do need to erase the whole thing because that is what they know how to do. Yeah. So let them erase the whole thing first. Write it, and then you can say, you know, sometimes when I put the wrong word, I don't erase the whole thing. I just take off the E and write an A or whatever. Just give them that option, but don't say, oh, no, you don't need to do that. Yeah, they do. They do need to do that. That's the way they were taught when they went to school, and that's the way they know how to do it. And the way to think about that is think about if it was the opposite. If you were learning Spanish, for example, and you just erase the T and the teacher says, no, don't just erase the T, erase the whole thing and write it again. You would go, what? Why would I do that? It's the same thing. They're thinking the same thing. What? Why wouldn't I erase the whole thing? That's how they know how to do it. So
it actually seems like a good way to learn it too. Then they'll associate the correct spelling of the whole word.
That's true, Brenda. And you know what's even better? If they erase the whole thing and then you say, okay, T-H-E-Y. E-Y. That's how you spell it. Yeah, it is. The more language you use, the more language they hear, the better off you are. Repetition is key. And a lot of times we are in a rush to get to the next thing and we don't repeat as much as we should be when we're teaching another language. Mm-hmm. It's hard to learn another language.
Yeah,
yes.
And that TH sound is a hard sound for some early language learners.
Well, it's a hard sound for a lot of language learners, whether they're early or not, because many languages, especially the Romance languages, don't have 2 consonants together in the beginning of a word. And yes, sometimes middle, but hardly ever in the beginning. I think the only Spanish word is chocolate and choco, but those are all Indian words, actually. They're not Spanish words. So, indigenous words. So it's hard for that. The TH, CH, SH, all the blends are very difficult for all students. Okay, so now you have given them the numbers. You have isolated he, she, it by just asking. They've actually written he, she, it on their pieces of paper or wherever. Now we're going to actually do the page, but guess what? We're going to do it orally first. More language. So you're going to say, okay, look at number 1. How is she? Do you think she's busy or do you think she's sleepy? Oh, she's busy. And if you look down here, guys, look, it says number 1, she's busy. This number 1 is this number 1. So she's busy. So what is number 1? She's busy. What's number 2? I don't know. Okay, well, let's see what it says. It says they're fine. Fine means very good. Busy means many things to do. Many things to do. All right. Number 3, that's an easy one. He's what? Tired. So you're going to go through the whole thing orally first. Okay?
Leela, have they seen the concept of contractions at this point? Because
Yes. Yes.
all those are contractions.
Yeah,
Is that
this is page 5. So they've seen they first, and in this particular lesson, it's the very first lesson in the very first book of survival English. It starts with you, he, she, pointing, and then he is, and then the next page is he's, she's. So yeah,
okay?
each page, yeah, they've already seen all these contractions.
But
Do
one
they?
of the
Go ahead.
one of the things I've seen with some of the lower level students is even if there's a contraction there, when you ask them to write it out, they'll write it out without a contraction. They'll say she is busy rather than
That's
she's
right.
busy.
And you, every single time I do this particular lesson, a tutor will say exactly that. So this is what I would do. I would say, yes, it is, she is not. It's the same thing. But you know how Americans are. We like to make everything smaller, right? We're going to write it this way and pronounce it this way. Because why? Because that is what they're learning. They're learning how to pronounce and write contractions. She has a different sound than she's. The contractions has the z sound in it. So yes, she is, this is what I say, she is correct, very correct. But here we're going to use the short one, she's, because we want you to learn the short way, because most Americans say she's. And it's not cheese, it's she's. Those two are very close together. So if you continue to not use the contraction, first of all, you're going to sound a little wacky because most people use contractions. And but I always tell them, if you want to sound more like an American, you use this, because most Americans use this. So Steve, to your point, I would make a point to have them write she's, he's, because that's what they're learning in this particular lesson. Okay. Yeah, every tutor says the exact, well, in every group, there's always a tutor that says that. Well, he'll say she's, but he'll write she is. But anyway, that's a skill that you're trying to teach them. So now you've talked about it all. Now we write. So let's pick up the pencil. So now they've heard it at least 4 times. Chances are they will be able to answer every single one of them now. And chances are by now you're not doing this page because Mary Jane has already come and said, it's break time. And so you have to give her back the paper. But you've had a lot of interaction.
We like a long break in my class.
Yeah, so do I, actually. So here's what I would do. Think of that student that I asked you to think about. There are some students, and I'm thinking particularly of a lot of our Syrian students who are very educated. And then I'm thinking about the African students who are very verbal, but not as educated. So if you're working with one eager beaver Syrian student who can write well, who is fast, a lot of them try and be really fast, typically, you can have them, you can do 2 things. You can say, okay, so now we're going to write. So let's do the first one together. She's busy. I want you to come here and underline she's busy and then write she's busy. Okay? And then if you have one of those students who gets it like this, you could say, okay, why don't you go ahead and fill it out and I'll go get Lila a Starbucks and then I'll come back and I'll check your answers. If you have an African student or a Mexican student or even a Syrian student who never went to school and they have labored writing or labored reading, then you do each one of them with them. But if you see that your student is a little bit more advanced than that, you don't need to hold them back. Let them go ahead and write. Writing is very passive, right? So if they can do it correctly without speaking, that's okay. You've already spoken a lot about it. You don't want to hold a student back, okay? But you do want them to produce a lot of language. And writing is, if they can do it well, then let them just do it on their own. and just check it later. Okay, any questions about that so far? No? I like them to underline the answer right here because it just gives them another point of reference. Another point of reference. They underline and they're looking at the word again. Okay, so now they've heard it and looked at it and interacted with it about 6 times.
At some point, Leela, you get into the fact that all those words are descriptive words.
No, because these people, if you say descriptive word, they're
Describe.
gonna look at you like, huh?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna go, you know, descriptive, it describes. Okay, it's the same word. They're still not getting it.
No. Yeah. Okay. Too
This is
early.
This is too early. This is a very low level student.
Yeah.
However, with that said, you know that every student doesn't fit the mold. You could have a student that is an African student, and I'm going to go with Africa because that's the experience that I've had with a lot of Africans. They pick up spoken language really well. Writing, a lot of them, not so much. As if they've gone to school, yes, they can write well, but a lot of our students, African students especially, they speak really well, and then when you ask them to write something, it's really hard for them. So with an African student, if they speak a lot, Steve, and you think they might understand that, yes, but you need to make sure that you check that they understand and that they're just not saying yes. So you could say, so why don't you describe me? And they'll say, if they understand what describe means, they'll say, oh, well, you're a man and you have glasses. But if they say, what, teacher? Describe, you know, describe me. They don't want, you'll know whether they know what you're saying or not. So I would not use big words that are not here unless I know the student well, but they might know it, you know. All right, so let's go to page 6. Page 6 looks like this.
Yep.
It's the following page, so it's probably the next tutoring session. So first thing I would have them do, again, remember these are beginners. See where name is. I would say, see where it says name. What do you think you have to do in that line? Oh, what? You already know my name. I know, but what do you think you have to do in that line? Write your name. Let's write your name. Go ahead, write your name. And have them write their name. Because that is a skill of a student. A lot of students don't have that skill, even our regular English-speaking students. I was a teacher for many years. So many times you get a paper, has no name on it. It's like, who is this? Whose writing is this? So have them write their names. It's just a good thing to have, a good skill to have, okay? Many times in survival English, it starts towards the middle of the lesson, which is where we are right now. You have a little dialogue. Do not skip the dialogue at all. Some tutors look at it, they skip right through it because there's nothing to do there. What? What do you mean there's nothing to do? There's speaking to do. Remember that goal? Speaking and listening? That's what this dialogue is all about. It's such a small little dialogue, but we're talking about people who have very little language and they are still learning the sounds and to form those words. So I'm going to be A, Mary Jane's going to be B. We do it and then I'm going to be B, Mary Jane's going to be A. If you have 2 students in front of you, then the students get to be A and B and not you. If you have 4 students, you're going to be A, then you're going to be B, then you're going to be A, then you're going to be B. If you have 2 students and they're going to do both, they're going to take part in the dialogue before they begin, you model it because beginners. So I would go, okay, first you listen, then you speak. So I'll go, A, how is she? B, she's busy. And I don't know if any of you have had this. But this is a skill that a lot of our students don't know how to do a dialogue. You're A, you're B.
Oh, that's true.
They don't know that A goes and then B goes. A lot of times I've had that, and everyone's reading A and everyone's reading B until I say, wait. You read this one, A. You read this one, B. So you're A and you're B. Make sure they understand this is another first world activity in a class. Most third world countries don't have students do this kind of stuff. They're doing this. They're writing. They're not interacting. This is something that a lot of our students are not used to, especially at this level. They probably are not versed at all with how education works in this country. It will also help them. A lot of them are parents, to work with their children when they get to that language level where they will be able to work with their children. Okay, so don't skip the dialogue ever. It's very, very important. And always, so the two takeaways: model it and explain what a dialogue is. You talk, then I talk. You talk, and I talk. That's what a dialogue is. Okay. Again, right here in the middle, another first world matching is something that might be very, very foreign concept to a student from another country. Okay. In our country, little kids in kindergarten, even in preschool, before preschool, know how to match things. They work with those little puzzles, match the red here, the blue here. That's called a match. They may not know what that means. So I would begin with not even asking, do you know what match is? Because they'll say yes, because they think they have to know. I would say, so match, what we're going to do here is we're going to match things, and match means you put one thing with another thing. That is called a match. You put one thing with another thing, that's a match. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to put a picture with a word. We're going to match. And the way we're going to match is we're going to take a pencil and match like that. So it's a match. So you explain what a match is. So again, at this stage, you've talked a lot about all these things. So I would say, so you see the numbers are here, the words are here, and you're going to match the picture with the number and the word. So let's do the first one together. What does the first one say? So, Zaina, what does the first one say? Number one, what does it say? It says fine. So let's look at the picture. Remember, fine means very good or good. Do you know which one of these pictures is fine? And let's pretend they don't know. You can say, he's fine. Okay, so now we're looking at for men. All right. So maybe they still don't know. You could say, let's look on page 5. Can you find he's fine here? Oh, there he is. He's fine. Well, that's the wrong one. He's fine. Yeah, that's the one, that picture of that man. He's fine. Let's find it over here now. There he is. He's fine. Let's match that.
Oh, he's happy.
He's happy.
Happy.
Oh, he's happy, whichever it is. I don't know.
That's a problem, though.
I'm not really looking. I'm not really looking that well. Yeah, he's happy. Which one is the fine one?
It's they're fine.
They're fine.
Family.
They're fine. See, there you go. I'm making all kinds of mistakes. They're fine. So have them reference the previous page. Okay? Have them reference the previous page, because see, if we hadn't referenced the previous page, probably we would have all stayed with he's fine. I don't know why I thought he's fine, but anyway, whatever. Have them reference it and match it. Okay? If you have a student who needs a little bit more writing practice, I would have them kind of write it. And I find this with my students, it's really hard for them to, if I just say, oh, just write it right here next to it. They don't like that. They like to have the line for some reason. But anyway, So I would have them match. And this is, again, another page that you can, if you see that the student has got it like this, you don't have to belabor it. Just have them do it. And then they're good to go, you know. But if you see that a student is very slow and they're really unsure, have them check back with their previous page to check themselves. And then if I had a group of students, like if I had 3 students, then I would have them ask each other, what is number 1? He's fine. What is number 2? Whoever it is busy. I don't know who it is. Okay. Or she, I remember she's busy. She's busy. So I would have the students interact with each other, and you just kind of are there as a guide or a pronunciation tape recorder so they could hear the right word to pronounce. He's, and I would, she's there. That's different. She's, he's, there, we're, and have them say that a few times. Okay. If you have a student who is very gung-ho and gets it done in 2 seconds, then we're going to write sentences in their notebook rather than going, hey, Mary Jane, we're done and there's still 20 minutes. What else could I do? Here's what you can do. Expand on this lesson. Okay, everybody, we're done. Look at that. We still have 10 minutes. Let's see. Take out your notebooks. Take out a piece of paper. I'm going to say some words and you're going to write them. Actually, I'm going to tell you I'm going to say some sentences and you're going to write them. So write number 1. They're fine. And go ahead and do that kind of stuff until your time is up. Okay? You don't need to go get another piece of paper. Expand on what you have. That's the best thing to do. Questions, comments about these 2 pages, Survival English 5 and 6? Have any of you worked with Survival English before? These are drawings look familiar?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you've worked with Erica, I know you have, because she loves Survival English as much as I love it. I think we use it a lot. Anyway, that's how you start gently, a gentle beginning, and then get right into the meat and have the students and you interact a lot with the writing and the pictures using a lot of language. Right now, my mouth is like aching from talking so much. And that's what you want the students to feel. Not you, but the students to feel.
Good.
So you need to prompt them a lot to get out answers from them. And at this level, you can't just sit and have a long conversation with them because they don't have the skill yet to have a long conversation with you. So you can have long interactions with easy content, which is what this is all about. And don't worry about repeating and repeating because, as I said before, and if you've taken another language, you know it. The more you hear it, the better off you are. All right. We are going to our next handout, which is page number 4, and it's another textbook that we use. I use a lot. I don't know about others, but I use it a lot. It's called From Home to School. The reason I like this series, From Home to School, is because mainly the number 1 reason I like it is because it brings up issues that immigrant children have when they come to the United States for the first time and walk into a classroom. And it also brings in cultural things that parents are have to deal with when they become parents of school-age children in this country, like report cards, newsletters, fairs, having the kids have eye exams in school, immunizations, all that stuff comes up in the series. And the 3rd reason I love it is because it starts with literacy level, which is what we're going to look at, and it goes all the way to level number 2, which is pretty high level language, but it's the exact same lesson. So the lesson that we're going to do today is called Don't Miss the Bus. At the literacy level, it's lesson 1. At the high intermediate level, it's also lesson 1. Don't miss the bus. The same concept, but way more expanded than what we're going to look at today. So I really like that series because of that, because actually it can progress with the students' progression. And so they could be reading the same story with a lot more words 6 months down the line. So I love it. And I also use it a lot because I'm in the schools with the outreach program. So it's all very relevant to my students because we're actually sitting in that schoolroom, in that school. And sometimes a lot of the issues come right up right there. And they go, oh, I remember one time it was like this, the person said to me, the tutor said to me, you know, Lita, she doesn't know who the principal of the school is. And I'm like, she doesn't. She has 3 kids here. Why don't you take her to the principal's office and introduce her to the principal? And so they got up and they went to the principal's office. And the principal happened to be there, which doesn't always happen, right? But for them, it happened, and that was really good. So a lot, also one time we were talking about it, using schools as voting places, and it happened to be that they were voting at Morley Nelson the following week, so we could actually see it. So it's a good series because it brings up all these real life issues that happen in schools. Okay, so don't miss the bus, page 4. Looks like that.
Yep.
So I'm gonna ask every single one of you to please interact with this page right now. So before you even look at what's going on in the story, so this is all that you're looking at right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Ah!
Yep. Okay.
Tell me one thing you can do with just that. So I'm gonna give you 1 minute to think about it. Look at that, just that, half the page. Tell me what you can do with just that. Uh-oh, I hear a lot of churning in there somewhere. Hope that's not my computer going out. Okay, anybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Well, you can ask them to say what's in the picture, objects in the picture.
Objects in the picture, very good. Zaina, remember, this is a very low level student, not pre-literate, but low level. So if you say, describe the picture, but if you say, tell me some objects or things that you see in the picture, they could probably give you bear, teddy bear, girl, you know, they could interact that way. So if you make it very specific, like you just did, Zena, that's fantastic. Tell me objects you see in the picture. They may not know objects, but you can say objects are a thing, like this. Look, a pencil is an object. My hair is an object. Glasses is an object. Okay, good. Anybody else?
Ask what the girl is doing.
Ask what the girl is doing. Very good. And that's all. Just what is the girl doing? Sleep? Yes, she's sleeping. The girl, she's sleeping. Guess what? She's sleeping. Yeah, the girl's sleeping. Ask, what is the girl doing? One question. What is the girl doing? Fantastic. Anything else? Anyone?
How many dolls? Count the number of dolls.
Count the number of dolls. Teacher, what's a doll? What's doll? What's doll?
It's the little objects
It's a fake.
next to the
toy.
girl.
A toy that
Toys.
looks like a person.
Teacher, toy? What is toy? Don't understand.
Pretend baby.
Pretend baby. What? Pretend? Teacher, pretend. I don't understand pretend. Baby, yes. No baby in picture. No baby. Girl is sleeping. The girl. No baby.
Cloth baby.
Cloth Cloth. You think they might know the word cloth, Zena, at this point? No, they do not know cloth. Okay, here we go, guys. We have a little dilemma because they're so low, right? My answer to each tutor is always, so where's your picture dictionary?
Oh.
It's not there. Oh, why don't you go get it? Okay, that's one thing. We were too far away to get it. Okay, so here's a wonderful opportunity if you try and explain it to them. So, do you have a phone?
Yeah, that's right.
A picture of a doll. Right, doll, image. Boom, there's a whole bunch of dolls. So then they see it. If they don't have a phone, then you got to do the old, well, children, yes? Yes, okay. Children like little babies. Babies don't speak. This, instead of saying pretend, it's a baby that does not speak. It's to play, no real, not real, to play, yeah. Or toy, they don't know toy, a ball. Toy is a toy, right? A racket is a toy. A basketball is a toy. Toy, to play. Something to play with, a toy. A doll is something to play with, like a girl, but it's to play with, or a boy, or a bear, and then you're showing them. This is a doll, a girl to play with, not real. So a little word like doll can take the whole lesson. But it's okay.
Thanks, Steve.
It's okay. So then Zena, if she wants to say cloth, she can say many times they're made out of cloth. Look, this cloth. So you have to become an actress then, or an actor, and show. Okay, so if you choose to use the word doll, make sure you have the stuff to back it up when they don't understand. And let me tell you, picture dictionary works like a charm. Just toys. Boom. Look. Okay. And the phones. But then, I always try and restrict phone use in my class. I don't like them to translate a lot with the phones. But there's certain things that if you just show the picture, move on. And sometimes it's good to bring that up and show it. I remember once trying to explain what cottage cheese was. And it just came up in a lesson, and I was like, cheese, yeah, cheese. They understood cheese, but not cottage cheese. So I just said, okay, I'm going to go get my laptop. I'll be right back. Boom, there it is. Oh, a Winco cheese. Yes, they have it at Winco. Yes, they do.
Leela, I had that happen to me one time. The same thing, cottage cheese. I had to bring some in the next lesson and show them.
That is the best thing to do. There's a whole branch of teaching English as a second language that's called realia, where you bring in everything you're going to talk about, the real objects. And that's the best thing to do. And if you don't have it then, like Steve said, next week you can just bring it. Remember we're talking about dolls? Here's my doll. This is a doll.
You'd have to know the lesson in advance to bring it in.
No, after. You can bring it in after. Yeah, to bring it in advance. How many of us know the lesson in advance? That's like, you could say, hey, Sharon, you're going to work with Steve today on dolls, and here's all the picture of the dolls. Hey, Sharon, Steve's not here. Guess what? You're doing citizenship now. Tony, give me the dolls. I wish we knew, right? It would be so fantastic if we knew. All right, we got so off topic, but it's good because we're all speaking, right? Anybody else? Just from here? So we got the dolls. We got the objects.
What time is it?
What time is it? Very good. That's the one that I was thinking of when I first saw this. What time is it? Because you're going to get into that with this lesson. What else? Look outside the box here.
The title.
The title. Here we go. Don't miss the bus. This is perfect for asking questions. What do you think this story is going to be about? Missing the bus. And what kind of a bus do you think it might be? Well, to go to work? Well, I don't think she's going to work. Where do you think she might be going? School? Maybe. She's a girl. She might be going to school. So you're
Looking ahead.
building anticipation for what's coming, but also giving them a little bit of a preview of what's coming next. Okay? So look at the picture and always look at the headline, especially if you're working with this particular resource, because they all have a headline, all of them. So it gives them a preview of what's going on. Okay? So here we are now, we're looking at the actual print. So these guys, as you can see, we're assuming that they know how to read a little bit. So I would, if you're starting this lesson brand new with the student, I would go ahead and read the first paragraph slowly to the student, and then have the student read it slowly back to me, or whatever pace they have. And this is what slowly sounds like. It is 6:45 a.m. Emily is in bed. She feels tired. Her father says, "Get up." Make sure you're using the inflections, especially if you work with family literacy. You know, a lot of times we have those books that the parents have to read, and you want to teach them to read with inflection because it's way more interesting and realistic than to read like this. It is 6:45 a.m. Emily is in bed. She feels tired. Her father says, "Get up." Boring. It doesn't mirror the flow of real language. You want to mirror the flow of real language for them. Okay? Then they do it. And then you do the second paragraph. If you have 3 students, what do you think you're going to do? You have a group of 3. Anybody, what are you going to do?
Have them each read a line.
Have them each read a line. Fantastic. That's the perfect answer, actually. At this level, I would have them each read a line. A paragraph, which is 3 lines in this case, might be a little much for some of the students at this level. Again, you might have someone who doesn't follow that mode, but in the beginning, I would have them each read a line. Who said that, actually?
I did, Brenda.
Brenda did. Good job, Brenda, because I was going to lead you there. 1 line at a time for the students, okay? Because you want to give them some success in what's going on here, okay? That's great. And now we are going to dictate some words. Remember that word dictate? We're going to dictate some words. And where are you going to write those words, guys? You're going to write them right here. So let's write number 1. Number 1, are you ready? Yes, teacher. Okay. Can you write feels? Feels. You write it and you say, is this how you wrote it? Oh yeah, that's how you wrote it. Great. Let's do another word, number 2. Can you write the word her? Her. And at this point, her and hair are going to sound a little the same to this person. So they may write H-E-R or they may write H-A-I-R. Hair and her. Is this how you wrote it? H-E-R? Oh no, you wrote H-A-I-R. This word, this one is hair. Hair. Let's repeat that one. Hair. This is hair. Her. Look at my mouth. Her. If we go back to teaching with masks, I don't know what we're going to do with the look at my mouth. I always say that. Look at my mouth. Her. Anyway, you get the point. 5 little words. Boom. They have more investment in the written word, right? And that's good. And then you're going to complete the story, because if you turn the page, well, you don't have to turn the page, but the next page is the end of the story. It looks like this. right? There's one more little paragraph, and then there's a picture that you can talk about again. So here is where I would make it personal. Do you have children in school here in Boise? Yes, I do. Do they take the bus? Yeah, they do. Are they ever late? Go ahead and why are they never late? What do you have to do to get them to not be late? Blah, blah, blah. Talk about that. You can bring a little of their culture in. We all love to talk about ourselves, even those people who say they don't. We know you do. You can say, in your country, in Afghanistan, are there buses that take kids to school or no? Some of them will say no. Most of them will say no. And some of them might tell you, if you go to a private school and pay money, the bus comes to get you. But if you don't go to private school, you don't have a bus. Many, 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 many countries, that's the way it is. There's a school bus that comes if you pay for it. Or if you go to a private school, the public schools do not have buses. But that is a good springboard to talk about schools. And what do you think about the school in this country compared to your country? Have you been able to see the school in this country and in your country? And they're going to say, guaranteed, most students will say they play a lot in the United States. They have a lot of colors and they have a lot of different things. In my country, not so much, because they don't do a lot of playing and stuff like that in other countries. First, the resources, and second, it's just not part of the educational system for a lot of the countries that our students come from, mostly come from. Even the highly educated ones, it's a whole different story, elementary schools in other countries. So I would take that picture to get a little personal with the student, as personal as you can get talking about a school setting, okay? So then after that, we have to complete the story. And complete the story, they have to put the words in, right? From the dialogue. So here, regardless of the level of the student, I would have them work on their own. I would say to them, okay, so, because now they've heard it a lot, they've interacted a lot with the story, and I would say, okay, guys, so now complete the story. That means you're going to finish the story. There are some words that are blank. That means no words are there. You are going to write the correct word. So we're going to look at the very first one, number 1. There are those numbers again, right? It's 6:45 a.m. Emily is in bed. That's the word you have to write. It's already there. See, bed. She feels tired. All right. This is the same story, guys, right? It's the same. So what you're going to do is you're going to write the correct word. And here, this is very important. You're going to give them permission to look for the right answer in the story, because a lot of them will want to do it without looking back, because they may think that you think they don't know it, or that it's cheating, or that whatever. You can say the best thing to do is to go back to the story if you don't know what word goes there, because now they're matching, they're doing that matching thing. They're also reading. You're giving them a skill, which is reading for information. You don't know the answer, let's find it. You can find the right answer and write in it. But make sure that you tell them that, because a lot of students don't know that that's something that you can do, and that actually you should do. If you don't know the answer, try and find it. Here, I always say, try and find it here. It doesn't have to be here. If it's here, it's good. But if it's not here, find it here. Okay, give them that permission to do that. Not necessarily like they can't do it if you don't give them permission, but when I say permission, is like, make it okay for them to do that. Invite them to do that. Because again, what we want is success. We're not testing them. We want them to be successful with the language. So that's what I would do with that. And then after all that, then you sit back and you say, guess what, Steve and Connie, you're going to read the story to me. So I'm going to sit and you're going to read it to me. Okay? And then you have the student read it. If Connie says she feels tireded, then I would wait until she finishes the paragraph and I would go, okay, Connie, let's repeat. She feels tired. And then, not to make Connie feel bad, I would go, and Steve, why don't you repeat the word tired as well? Everyone, let's repeat tired. And everyone repeats tired, because obviously somebody in the class didn't get the pronunciation, but we want to correct it in a gentle kind of way, not say, well, it's not tireded, it's tired. You just say, okay, well, just not even say anything, just read it again and have Connie repeat it, and Connie will know right away that she mispronounced it, but that's okay because we're going to pronounce it the right way. So this is a time again for the students to have them shine for you, show off for you that they can read what you've just taught them, but they've heard it a gazillion times, right? So chances are that they will be able to do a pretty decent job of it. And then this lesson goes on to 3 more pages. The end of each lesson of this particular series, which again is called From Home to School, always ends with 3 questions at the end. Probably not at the literacy level, they have a little thing, but maybe not 3 questions, but 3 activities. And it's discussion/writing. So it'll be something like, number 1, it'll say, talk to the students about, number 1, a time they were late for school. 2, what do school buses look like? 3, what should happen to a child if they missed a bus? And then you discuss. A lot of times in the beginning levels like this, I have this tutor choose one to talk about with students. A little later, at a little higher level, I have the student choose one to talk about. And a little even later, I have the tutor talk about all 3, and then the students need to choose one and write 5 sentences about that one. Just write a little paragraph about that one. And again, that's another thing that a lot of the tutors come and go, so Leela, should we do this one? The last one? I'm like, yeah, it's discussion. It's just like a dialogue. It's very important because you're wrapping everything up at the end. And this is a time when the students can give their opinion using some of the language that you just explored with them in the, in the writing, in the reading, I mean. So that's how I would always end with wrapping things up. And one thing that I always do with you guys, which I'm going to do with you right now, and it's a good idea for you to do with your students as well, is I've been talking for an hour now, I have. What are 2 things that you're taking with you from this session that we just had that you can use with your student, or that you have used with your student before, or that you will use with your student later on? So take 1 minute and we're going to go around and you're going to tell me that. And I hope you have a student in mind. It always helps when you have a student in mind. And whenever we're going to do it like a friends meeting. Whenever you're ready, just speak. But unlike a friends meeting, we can't sit here for 2 hours until someone speaks.
What I learned from this is to be more patient, just take my time and not go through. I'm a task-oriented, kind of linear. Just take that time to go through it very slowly, not worrying about where you end up. Just focus on the process.
Sharon, that's fantastic, because I think we're all kind of go-getters, tutors who tutor with us. You're not there because you're slackers or you don't like to do stuff. You're there for the exact opposite. And teachers were the same way. A lot of times we are very task-oriented, and so many times tutors come up to me and say, oh my gosh, Leela, I'm so sorry I didn't finish this. But we were talking about so-and-so's kid who blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you know what? That's what they're here for. They're really not here to fill in the blanks. Filling the blanks is, in the paper, is a means to get to speak. So don't ever feel badly about finishing. But with that said, sometimes there are some students who need a little push. And like you may be in my class and I'll say, you know, Sue, she needs to finish this today because this is day number 5 and you really need to be moving on. So if the teacher tells you that, then you need to keep that student on task and say, Leela, or let's do Mary Jane because she's, you know, Mary Jane. Mary Jane really wants us to finish this. So let's finish this first and then we'll talk about, you know, whatever it is you want to talk about.
Okay, something similar, really. I've taught a lot of mathematics, and actually, it's similar approach in the sense that you start from first principles. You first discuss every object or aspect, and then you start building, and it's really quite similar.
It's the same, Zena. It's exactly the same thing. Yeah. You can't see, and this, one of the examples I gave another training is like, if you take a little kindergartner, right? That kindergartner in school, by the time they're in 3rd or 4th grade, they're going to be able to multiply, right? But they can't multiply if you don't teach them grouping in the beginning.
Exactly.
Right? If you groups of 2s, if the little kindergartners have a group of 2 here, a group of 2 here, and a group of 2 here, they're actually building to multiply. But in kindergarten, you can't say, oh, you know what, Scotty, 2 + 2 + 2 is 2 times 3 and it equals 6. They won't get it when they're in kindergarten. But the concept of grouping is going to lead them to the multiplication in 2nd, 3rd grade. If the kid is of average intelligence, you know, if they're little geniuses, they'll be doing it.
Anyway, that was very helpful, I thought.
Yeah.
I really like the concept. I really like the concept of that gentle introduction.
Gentle beginning. I love that concept too.
That's going to be a takeaway for me because I'm kind of like some of the other students, ready to jump right into the lesson.
Boom, boom. Let's get this done. Yeah.
And so, kind of that little bit of soft introduction, I think will really help a lot, particularly with those lower level learners.
Yeah, I had a professor in college, a language professor, and he told us this, and I'll never forget. He said to us, learning a language, I was learning Italian at the time, learning a language in the beginning lessons of learning a language is the foundation of your house. If you don't have a foundation in your house, you can build 10 stories, but it's going to come down. Yeah. You can go right to Don Quixote and read in Spanish, but if you don't know the difference between estar and ser, you're not going to be able to get through Don Quixote. You won't be able, it'll come down. And so I always remember that you're building a foundation, which is what Zena just said as far as mathematics, but it's the same in language, you know, it's the same thing, the same concept. Anybody else?
My takeaway is that you can do so much more with a simple assignment. So there is the assignment on there, but by breaking it into so many other things, you can take that piece of paper and be there hours if you want, you know.
Yeah, and Betty, you know, that is fantastic because these guys are so low that, you know, the people who have more language, you can do a lot more conversation with them. These guys are very limited in their conversation. So they're going to be able to tell you how many kids they have in their address and when they go shopping, but not a lot more. So you have to have them use English in a safe way, in a meaningful way, when they don't have that much English to share with you. And it's very difficult to teach this level because you think you fill in the blanks and then you still have 45 minutes left. What am I going to do? And you can't just like have a conversation because they don't have that level yet. They're not conversant that way. So it's a really hard level to teach. A lot of teachers don't like teaching this level because you get a lot of blank stares and a lot of quiet time. But you know, sometimes quiet time is not that bad in a language class because they're processing. As long as you're feeding and taking back the time, do that 10 count to have them and then come out. Don't be in such a rush to get things out. Give them a time to process it all, you know. So that's a good takeaway too. Anybody else have something that they? Yes, Connie.
Well, what's really useful for me is the idea of just sticking to what's right on the page, especially specifics, because I'm likely to see something like this and say, yikes, you know, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
But if you know that you could just look for specific things like using vocabulary that people will know, what is the girl doing?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And if you have that little whiteboard, you can actually write it down and show it to them. There's a lot of things. I love teaching beginning level because there's so much you can do with them. You know, but a lot of people don't like teaching beginning level because they think there's not that much they can do. Well, yeah, but
right.
You can actually do. Yeah.
Another point, Leela, that you made that I think is really good is to not assume that they understand even things like the order of the words on the page, or, you know, explaining A and B, left to right, those types of things. That for us, we just assume, you know, that's just how we went through school. Yeah. So that was a good reminder.
Yeah, and also, you know, even the students who, you know, are university grads from Iraq or Iran or Syria, their way of learning when they were just learning a language is very different than the way we teach in this country. So even though they're very educated in another country, that doesn't mean that they were matching things or getting dictated to or all that kind of stuff that we do in this country. That is expected of them, and also expected of them as a parent if they're going to help their kids. So don't take anything for granted. That's a really good thing to take away too. Don't take things for granted, that they know stuff, you know, and they're adults. So you don't have to treat them like children, but you do have to realize, and I know that all of you do, because I know you guys, is that they're coming from such a different background than we are. You know, even the educated ones, such a different background. And also our students are survivors, and they're also they're crafty. So a lot of times they make it look like they understand stuff, but they don't. But there's our refugees that we have, that you see, that we get to see across the table, are the craftiest of all those people who are in those refugee camps. They're the ones who got to be in Boise, Idaho, and not the thousands that are left behind. There's something about them that got them to this country. And a lot of times it's tenacity, being crafty, going behind the doors, just doing things in a different way that got them here, because they're the top of that mass of people that couldn't go through whatever it is that they have to go through in the different camps in the different areas of the world that they come from.
And sometimes they're suffering from trauma, and that makes a difference too.
Oh yes. And you know what? Well, this is a story that I haven't told anyone yet, but I'm going to tell you guys today, because it's one of those days. I was just in a class where I made the biggest faux pas that you can make. And I had the student, I asked a question that was totally inappropriate. And the student, I didn't know what that student's background was. So I should have had my teacher hat on, which I didn't. And it just blew up in my face. And I was like so taken aback, because it's like, what did you just do? What just happened here? You know, so everybody makes those mistakes. And, you know, the student was fantastic about it, and we continued after a little bit, but it was just like, you know, you do feel badly at first, of course, but I just wanted to share that with you, because we're all human. It happens, you know, even when you're trying your hardest, even when you have all this knowledge too about how to deal with folks. Sometimes you just become a human being, and you just ask this question just because, and boom, there it comes, you know.
Something similar happened to me one time in a break. I think I was asking too many questions.
Yeah.
And I could feel the person just sort of shrinking away, and I thought, oh, I better get out of here before I say anything.
You know, and again, it depends on I always tell tutors, take your cue from the student. If you know them really well, then there's certain things you can talk about. If you don't know them at all, then there's certain things that you definitely don't talk about. That's what happened to me. I didn't know this person at all. So anyway, just keep that in the back of your head. But if it happens to you, it's not the end of the world. It feels like it, but it's not the end of the world. You move past it. You move past it. You really do. And the students move past it.
Yeah.
Very fast. So yeah. Anyone else have anything to share?
I think one thing is good to know that you can be a little more creative with some of these lessons. So that's a nice thing, that you can kind of look at it and think, how else can I make this more interesting? And then also your comment about trying to relate back to the culture. I think that's really good, like asking if there are buses that take kids to school in Iraq. I think that's a really good question. I think you just have to keep it generalized and not get into some of the problems of something that's more personal, because that's where you might.
I think if you keep everything in the third person, you know, do people in Iraq, do kids in Iraq, not did your kid have a bus, or, you know, if you keep it in the third person, and you always start with your own, like, you know, when my kid was in school, he was always late. What happens in Iraq when kids are late? You know, not what happened to your kid, but what happens in Iraq, or what happens in Syria? Is time, like, do kids have to be in school at a specific time or not? Like, if they go late, what happens? Anything? So keep it at that third person level, so it's not second person or first person. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because some of these people lost their children in Iraq.
I know. You know, I was sitting tutoring somebody at, nobody here has worked at Garfield. No, with Garfield, and I was sitting with a Syrian woman. It was a while back when the war was like in its heyday. And I'm sitting with this woman. She was a GED student. And all of a sudden she says, "Look, teacher, Lila." And I'm looking at her phone. And it's some building coming down. She says, "This is where my mother lives." And I'm like, "Right now?" "Yes, this is where my mother lives right now." And the building's being crumbled down. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And then we went on. That was, and I'm inside, I'm going like, and she just wanted to share that. I just said, "Right now?" She says, "Yes, right now." And that was the end of that. And we went on.
My goodness.
But for some reason, she had to show that to me. And that was, I mean, you know, I'm still talking about it. It was years ago. I'm still talking about it because it affected me, but I couldn't let it affect me so much that it would bring her down. She had to, I don't know why she showed me the picture. I just know she had to show it to me. So
the lessons sometimes lead you in difficult places, because I remember doing one on family members and asking somebody how many siblings they have, how many brothers and sisters. I had 13, they're all killed.
Exactly.
Where do you go with that?
Yeah, where do you go with that? I know. That's a tough one. It's a tough one. Yeah, because we're so used to, when you know, if you think of yourself at a party or cocktail party or whatever, "So, how many kids do you have? So, are you married?" So, you know, that's just chit chat for us. It's chit chat. But for some of our students, it's not so chit chatty, you know. Okay, well, I don't want to get all heavy.
That's good.
I gotta get out of that. So anyway, your takeaways sound really good. I just want you to remember to be patient, to remember not to take anything for granted, to take the cues from the student. So don't say, "Well, Lilo said we had to do 5 of these." If you know, if Abdul does 1 and he's good to go, then you do 1 and go with Abdul, you know, or go with Jose or whoever you have, Maria. It's not like you have to do all this. Gauge your student. After a couple of sessions, you kind of know what kind of level they are. Based on the material that Mary Jane gives you, you'll know what kind of student it is. You could do this at all levels, maybe not as slowly as you would with this level, but you can certainly do it at all levels. And the one also big takeaway, it's a personal one for me, very important one for me. Learn your students' names. Call them by name. I give you Connie, the student, maybe the folder has his name on it or not. So Connie, you take your page and you go, Tony, you're working with me. Let's go. Do you remember my name, Tony? You don't? Oh, my name is Connie. I'm Connie. So come on, Tony, let's go work. This is another caution at this level. I would not say this. Here I am. This is Connie again, and I'm tutoring Tony. So Tony, where do you think we should go? Do you think we should go study in the library, or do you think we should go into the kitchen? Or would you prefer the hallway? Or do you like this room back here? The student coming from the background they're from is like, why is the teacher asking me? You should know where she's going. So I would say, so Tony, let's go work in the break room or in the kitchen or wherever. And let's go do it. If Tony hates the break room, she could tell Mary Jane, the teacher, I don't like working in the break room or whatever. You know, so don't give them a gazillion choices when you first meet them. You're starting to confuse them already. You learn language when you're more settled, when you're less threatened. If you start off with 3 confusing questions at once, they're already like, before they sit down with you. So choose a place before and say, let's go. Tony, let's go to the break room. That's where we're working today. And that's it. If you have a sweet spot, you always go to the break room. You always then go where you always go. Don't ask the student. Just do it. Just go where you want to go. Connie, you had a question or a comment?
Okay, so once you've gone to whatever room you're going to, then what do you do? Like
then I would do a little icebreaker, like, so, Connie,
talk about the weather or something.
Talk about one thing. So I know you, Connie. So this is what I would do with Connie. Connie, how was your Zumba class this morning?
Oh my God, it was fabulous.
There we go. So I don't know Tony very well. So I would go, so Tony, what country are you from again?
Yeah, okay.
And how long have you been in Boise?
Right, okay.
How long have you come to Learning Lab?
Those are all, that's all okay.
Yeah, I would start off with a little bit of an icebreaker.
I try to, yeah.
Just a little bit, you know. If you know the student well, you can ask. So you said that Manuel was having graduation this year.
Right.
Is he ready?
Yeah.
What does he have to do for graduation? Did he go to the prom? What, you know, something like that. Something personal, if you know the student, personal about this country, if the kids are in school in this country. If it's not, then weather is always a good one. Mm-hmm. I like this weather today. I don't like 80 degrees. I like 60 degrees. What about you? Do you like 80 or 60?
All right. Okay.
A little springboard to get you going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
I have one more thing. I can't see the bottom of your shirt to see what's written.
Oh my gosh, you want to hear the story? Zumba!
Right for Zumba.
Show up and dance, it says. Right
dance.
before,
Okay.
yeah, it says show up and dance. You didn't hear my little thing before we started. I was gonna have a Zumba class online through Zoom on Fridays and Sundays here. Connie has been my Zumba buddy for years. She comes to all my Zumba classes.
Yep.
Today, we couldn't do it because my computer was just totally acting up. So by the time I got off the phone with the technician, I didn't have time to change from my clown outfit to a real outfit. So I'm wearing my clown outfit.
That's a good one.
And I didn't get to dance this morning, which is always a bummer when you don't start the day with a good dance. So that's why I'm wearing this.
Do it now.
I know.
Yeah, there's still time.
I'll leave you on and Connie can lead you. Or Mary Jane. Mary Jane comes to class too.
You wouldn't want me to be the leader of that one. I'm always like trying to keep up.
Hey, you know what I noticed about Zoom though, which is really good if you wanted to ever take Zumba or any dance class? Zoom is the good way to do it because I see that it's a little slower. Like when I'm moving, I see myself going slower, just naturally. The computer just moves you slower than regular. I'm like, wow, this is kind of nice. I can see myself, you know, it's like, wow, that's good. Anyway, we digress. We are done with this. Mary Jane, do you have any parting words?
No, except I'm going to send you a Survey Monkey. So if you can fill it out, that'd be great. We are probably going to be doing trainings like this for a while. So we just want to keep getting better at it.
I thought it was very good.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm one of these people that does not like technology at all. I think the coronavirus was probably a way to push me into doing a lot more stuff with the computer. So when Mary Jane first said to me, do you want to do Zumba trainings? My first thinking was, of course not. Why would I want to do that? But it's not so bad. It's good.
I think it's good too, keeping the group small.
Oh yeah, I
It's
can't
more work for Leela because she has to do this 4 times.
Right.
But it's really great because everyone can participate, and we feel,
when I do, I don't know if some of you have seen at some of my trainings, I like people to participate. I don't like to sit and lecture, although I did lecture a lot today, but we break out and stuff. If I ever get into this breakout room business on Zoom, maybe my next training will do that. But so I like to keep it small because of that. So anyway, thanks everyone for coming. If anybody wants to do a Zumba class, tell Mary Jane and I'll put you on the list.
It's fun.
I will.
Talk about a good laugh. You can always just block yourself out and no one will see you.
She does it Fridays and Sundays at 10:30.
10:30 a.m.
And no one's looking at you anyway.
No one. I teach at the Y and people are always self-conscious. I'm like, no one, believe me. I'm looking at you because I don't want you to get hurt if you're, twisting your foot one way or another. But other than that, nobody really is looking at you. Nobody. But anyway, so everybody, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time, whenever that is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good weekend.